Good day everyone. Today we will tackle about the phases and process of curriculum development prepared by yours truly. But before we proceed to our formal discussion, let us read first our objectives. First is to analyze the models of curriculum implementation in the context of curriculum change. Discuss the three-stage process of educational change. Analyze what is change process in curriculum implementation and explain the phases of the change process. So, what is curriculum development? It is the step by step process of designing and improving the course offered at schools, colleges, and universities. Even though each institution will have its own process, the broad stage of the framework consists of analysis, design, implementation, and evaluation. When we say curriculum development, it is the systematic process of designing, organizing, and planning educational content and experiences for students. It involves several key steps, including needs analysis to identify the goals and needs of students and society, setting clear learning objectives, selecting relevant subject matter, and planning instructional methods and assessments. Once the curriculum is implemented in classrooms, it undergoes evaluation to assess its effectiveness and make necessary adjustments based on feedback from students and educators. The ultimate aim of curriculum development is to create a coherent and relevant educational experience that meets the diverse needs of learners. We have three types of curriculum models. First is the subject-centered design, second is learner-centered design, and the third one is the problem-centered design. So when we say subject-centered design, it is the curriculum is divided into subject areas. Activities are arranged according to a particular subject, focus on the content of the curriculum, strong emphasis in place on instruction, direct strategies are used, activities are around acquisition and memorization of the facts. So when we say subject-centered design, it is an approach to a curriculum development that prioritizes the content or subject matter as the primary focus of the educational experience. In this model, the curriculum is organized around specific disciplines or subjects such as mathematics, science, or literature, with the belief that a deep understanding of these subjects is essential for student learning. This approach typically involves a structured framework that outlines the key concepts, skills, and knowledge to be taught within each subject area, often following a sequence that builds upon previous learning. While subject-centered design emphasizes content mastery, it may sometimes overlook the individual needs and interests of students or the relevance of the subject matter to their lives, making it crucial for educators to find a balance between content delivery and student engagement. The second curriculum model is the learner-centered design. It is the learner is the center of the educative process, focus on the needs and interests of the learners. Activities allows the development of skills and talents of learners, aim to develop the independence of the learners. Teacher act as the facilitator of learning. So when we say learner-centered design, it is an educational approach that focuses on the needs, preferences, and abilities of the learner rather than on the content of instructor. It aims to create a learning experience tailored to the individual's pace, interest, and learning styles, encouraging active participation, critical thinking, and problem solving. In this approach, learners are given more autonomy and are encouraged to take ownership of the learning, with teachers acting as facilitators or guides. This method promotes a more personalized and engaging learning environment, enhancing motivation and helping learners develop a deeper understanding of the material. The third and the last curriculum model is problem-centered design. It is organized using social problem, needs, interest, and abilities of learners. It allows the development of problem-solving skills, judgment, and decision-making. Encourage students to think in a deeper context. enhanced logical reasoning of learners, allows the teamwork and collaboration, and the last one is strengthen motivation and engagement of learners. So when we say problem-centered design, it is an instructional approach that focuses on engaging learners by centering the learning process around real-world problems or challenges. Instead of learning abstract concepts first and applying them later, students are introduced to problems that require critical thinking and problem-solving skills right from the start. As they work to find solutions, learners acquire relevant knowledge and skills in context, making the learning experience more meaningful and practical. This approach encourages active learning, collaboration, and the development of transferable skills as students see the direct application of what they are learning to real life situations. It also fosters creativity and independent thinking by encouraging learners to explore multiple solutions. And now let's proceed to the models of implementation. We have first overcoming resistance to change model. This model rests on the assumption that the success of curriculum primarily depends on the impact the developer can make on the consumers, example, teachers, students, and the society in general. While addressing the persons within the system, we should remember that to get the desired result, the subordinates should be motivated rather than ordered. So, overcoming resistance to change, it involves strategies aimed at helping individuals or organizations accept and adapt to new processes or behaviors. Resistance often arises due to fear, uncertainty, or discomfort with altering established routines. Common approaches to overcoming these include Lewin's change management model, which suggests unfreezing current practices, implementing change, and refreezing new habits to make them permanent. Another is Kotter's 8-step model, which emphasizes creating urgency, engaging stakeholders, and building momentum for sustained change. The ADKAR model focuses on personal transitions by addressing awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. Effective change management requires clear communication, support, and involvement of those affected to build trust and reduce opposition. The second model of implementation is Leadership Obstacles Course or LOC model. This model treats staff resistance to change a problematic and proposes that we should collect data to determine the extent and nature of the resistance. So when we say the Leadership Obstacle Course model, it is a framework that views leadership development as a journey where leaders must navigate a series of challenges or obstacles to grow and improve their abilities. Each obstacles represent a real-world challenge or barrier that leaders often face, such as handling conflict, decision-making under pressure, inspiring teams, managing change, or dealing with uncertainty. The model emphasizes that these challenges are opportunities for growth, requiring leaders to develop resilience, adaptability, and problem solving skills. By navigating these obstacles, leaders not only sharpen their competencies but also gain valuable insights into their strengths and areas for improvement. The course is not linear and the obstacles can vary in difficulty, allowing for continuous learning. This approach highlights the dynamic, evolving nature of leadership, stressing that effective leaders are those who embrace challenges, learn from them, and continuously improve in their role. The third model of implementation is the linkage model. So this model recognizes that there are innovators in research and development centers, universities, etc. Educators in the field, however, find some of their attempts at innovations that are inappropriate for solving the problems. What is therefore needed is a match between the problems and innovations, the establishment of linkage. This model foresees two systems, user and resource system. There has to be a link between these two systems. So when we say the linkage model, it is a framework used to illustrate the connection between various organizational processes, especially how leadership and management practices impact employee behavior, which in turn affects organizational outcomes. This model emphasizes the idea that leadership actions such as setting goals, providing resources, and offering support directly influence employee motivation, engagement, and performance. In the linkage model, effective leadership is seen as a key driver that aligns organizational goals with employee actions. It shows that when leaders engage in practices that foster a positive work environment, such as clear communication, recognition, and empowerment, employees are more likely to be productive and committed. This improved performance ultimately leads to better organizational results like higher customer satisfaction, increased profitability, or innovation. Essentially, the model highlights the interconnectedness of leadership, employee behavior, and organizational success, making it a useful tool for understanding how changes in one area can affect the overall system. The fourth model of implementation is the RAND model. Based on the assumptions that the success of the implementation of new program depends on the characteristics of the proposed change, competencies of the teaching and administrative staff, the support of the local community, and the school organizational structure. So when we say the RAND model, it is developed by the Corporation, is a framework primarily used in public policy analysis, decision making, and strategic planning. It emphasizes a systematic, evidence based approach to solving complex problems by relying on research, data, and logical evaluation. The RAND model often involves generating and evaluating multiple policy alternatives or solutions using rigorous analysis to assess the potential outcomes, risk, and benefits of each option. This model typically follows a structured process that includes problem identification, setting objectives, generating alternatives, evaluating the consequences of each option, and then recommending the best course of action. The goal is to help decision makers choose policies or solutions that are grounded in solid evidence and can effectively address real world challenges. The RAND model is widely used in areas such as defense, healthcare, education, and economics, where informed, data driven decisions are critical to achieving successful outcomes. So, the fifth and the last models of implementation is organizational development model. This model is an information processing change strategy that enables the system to improve its operations and the quality of interactions among its members to facilitate the introduction of change. This model improves the organization's problem solving and renewal process and its emphasis on teamwork and organizational culture. So, our organizational development model is a framework that guides the structured improvement and transformation of an organization's processes, culture, and performance. It focuses on enhancing the overall effectiveness and health of an organization through planned interventions, often based on behavioral science principles. The goal of organizational development model is to align organizational strategy, structure, and practices with its goals, ensuring adaptability to change and fostering a positive work environment. This typically involves diagnosing issues, developing solutions, implementing changes, and monitoring outcomes to ensure sustainable growth and continuous improvement. Organizational development model help organizations address the challenges like leadership development, team dynamics, communication, and innovation. And now let's proceed to the change processes. So according to Pasi Salberg, curriculum change is a learning process for teachers and for their schools. Good understanding of change and a clear conception of the curriculum are necessary conditions for improved implementation of the new curriculum into practice. The field of education is a dynamic as the changes in the environment and society. From the traditional practices, it has to keep pace with the fast changing world. The emerging innovative pedagogies and technologies have challenged schools to introduce innovations in their institutions. And with that, we cannot deny that changes are inevitable. We have three phases of curriculum change. We have initiation, implementation, and institutionalization. The first phase of curriculum change, we have initiation. So it is the first phase of the change process. In most cases, those facilitating and leading change pay close attention to launching the innovation because they recognize that how well something begins after how it ends. So the initiation phase is about deciding to embark on innovations and of developing commitment toward the process. The key activities in the initiation phase are the decision to start and a review of the school's current state as regard the particular change. Matthew Miles, 1986, made an analysis of the various stages of the school improvement. This is the list of factors that Miles believes make for successful initiations. First is the innovation should be tied to a local agenda and high-profile local need. A clear, well-structured approach to change, an active advocate or champion who understands the innovation and supports it, active initiation to start the innovation, and the good quality innovation. So the second phase of curriculum change is implementation. It is the second phase of the change process. Once the vision of institutionalization is clear and consistent, leaders concentrate on what is needed to put the innovation into practice by planning for and supporting implementation. Implementation is the phase of the process that has received the most attention. It is the phase of attempted use of the innovation. The key activities occurring during implementation are the carrying out of action plans, the developing and sustaining of commitment, the checking of progress and overcoming problems. The key factors making for success at this stage, according to Miles 1986, are clear responsibility for coordination, shared control over implementation, good cross-hierarchical work and relations, empowerment of both individuals and at the school, mix of pressure, insistence on doing it right, and support adequate and sustained staff development and in-service training rewards for teachers early in the process. The third phase of curriculum change is the institutionalization. It occurs when the innovation becomes routine practice in its frequency, consistency, accuracy, and results. Members of the organization use the change at least at the routine level of use and have resolved major issues to its implementation, such as resources, time, materials, and so on. So institutionalization is the phase when innovation and change stop being regarded as something new and becomes part of the school's usual way of doing things. The move from implementation to institutionalization often involves the transformation of a pilot project to a school-wide initiative, often without the advantage of the previously available funding. Key activities at this stage, according to Miles 1986, are an emphasis on embedding the change within the school's structures, its organizations, and resources, the elimination of competing or contradictory practices, strong and purposeful links to other change efforts, the curriculum and classroom teaching, widespread use in school and local area, and the last one is an adequate bank of local facilitators, like for example advisory teachers for skills training.